Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of the Oliver Schirach Show. And whenever you listen to this, it's now. So I'm here with you in the same moment. I'm Oliver. I'm the host of my show, and it's my task to go out and find inspirational people all around the world talking about creativity, innovation, personal growth or change, and lately more and more about spirituality and mysticism, as I have some kind of the feeling this is connected with being more creative. And today is no exception to that. It's a talk today with Dilmi Mahadurage from Sri Lanka, and she shares with me and you her path, her growth from the dark place she had to the awakening. And she explains it. She felt like she's been sleeping for 28 years and has not seen the world until that day. Be aware, she has not shared this story with many people, so it's kind of new for her, but it is very, very deep. And I hope you're not getting triggered if you're new to this, because I got triggered a lot by Eckhard Tolle's talk and Dilmi by Osho's work. And we are talking about that, how you get triggered and what are the causes of it. So what will you learn in this episode? What will you take from it? I'm pretty sure you will get a nice story, a deep story, a very honest and warm person to listen to, and you will also receive a lot of tips and tricks how you can go out and change your life, change your perspective, and awaken yourself and wake up from your dream to the reality. Without any further ado, welcome to Dilmi. Welcome to the Oliver Schirach Show. Dilmi, do I say that right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Oliver, for giving me this opportunity to share my story. Yeah.
Yes, you're very welcome. I read it on Instagram, and I do not remember how we are connected, but I saw that you were in a very dark place. But before we go there, let's get some kind of ice breaking. So also for the listeners and me to kind of know who is Dilmi. And now let me see. Mahadurage. How do you say your name?
Mahadurage.
Mahadurage. Okay. Yeah. It's always difficult when you interview people from all around the world. Sometimes
right.
Names are pronounced different everywhere. Yeah. And okay, but to get to know you, I started my podcast to ask my guests to describe themselves in 3 words. Like you can say, I'm courageous, I'm creative, whatever, but perhaps with a little story why you see yourself like that.
Okay.
So you see yourself. I mean, don't tell me how other people see you, how you see your strengths.
Okay. Peace and determined. And
determined. Okay.
I could say those 3. I don't know. That's what comes to my mind right now. So I will go those 3 words,
So why these 3 words?
Yeah, peace is like, to be very honest, like from the very young age, that's what I really, really focused on. The reason behind that is because, Oliver, like I saw my dad, like was doing his business, but like he was doing successful, but at the same time, he was lacking the peace of mind. And so that's what I strive for. And that's now where I am right now, I feel, So, yeah. And then is like whenever I put like a focus on something, I'm like laser focus and I go for it, and my whole like life mission was to figure out what's the universal truth in life. And I seek for it for a very long time, for nearly 10 years, very intensively. And I felt like I got there, Finally that seeking stopped. So that's why I say determined. And energetic means like more than energetic, I could say I would use the word energy. The reason is because I feel other people's energy, and I feel like that my whole life is around energies, and I was being guided by the energies. I feel like people's energies, and sometimes I read a book and I immediately feel the energy of the other person, So yeah.
So when you read the book, is it the person which is writing? You feel the energy?
Oh, yeah. So for example, I read the book, the Eckhard Tolle.
Yeah.
One time I remember that I was reading his book, and I literally felt the energy of the person's, like how he wrote the book, like his presence. I immediately felt his energy through his book.
Wow. So now I read Eckhart Tolle's book, one of them. I've been told The Power of Now, I think it's the title. I've been told another one is better for some people. How was the energy you felt from him? I mean, he's very calm and slow.
Oh yeah. Like I felt like such a peace inside me. Like I realize it's coming through the book. It's just that his energy, the author's energy, peace and calmness, such a groundness. I don't know how to put it into the words. I feel, that the presence of his, like he's like he's at such a powerful state of now, You know what I mean? He's even talking about the power of now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So he's not talking, he's actually living it.
Exactly.
And you could feel it. So it was not the words, you actually felt him. Did you have another experience where you were getting the opposite of peace and grounding?
Oh yes, yeah. Yeah. So some people I can remember, like I don't want to mention their names, but I have a phone call with the person, but I immediately feel like so negative, like stressed, and the restlessness of the person,
Okay, so I have to be careful how I feel.
Don't worry, I feel fine. I feel good.
You feel good? You feel good in my presence?
Yeah.
So all listeners, I got the green light here.
Yeah.
No, but this is very interesting because reading books, I mean, of course, I've been reading a lot of books, probably more than I can remember. And Eckhart Tolle, I didn't feel his presence, but I watching him on YouTube, wherever you see him, webinars, I can feel his calmness, but it doesn't go as deep as you describe it. Like you really felt it. For me, it's kind of there. It's kind of touching me. For me, unfortunately, I feel more the negative feelings because it's multiplying my own inner insecurities, I think, which are not just multiplied. So when I ask you about feeling the energies now of my own experience, are you feeling any energy no matter what, or do you think it has something to do with your own state of mind or energy field frequency you have yourself at the moment? Or
I feel like I'm an empath, empaths just feel other people's energies, and also I feel like from the very young age I was I was always into meditating and stuff, I used to meditate, and I feel like I'm very sensitive to the energies around me. So I'm very sensitive.
Yeah.
I could say that, it's not like it's just how I am, So yeah.
Okay. Of course, and the other question is for the people listening here. I know a few of the listeners by name. So I know some feedback comes from my friends which are listening. And then the question is, of course, okay, I know that I feel these energies. As I said, I realized that I felt sadness once with a friend, and I knew it's not mine. that's when I realized I absorbed the energy from other people, because I felt so much sadness. I just wanted to cry, and I was overwhelmed with it. And then, of course, I feel I reacted wrong in that situation with the person, because I could have supported that person more. But then I started thinking back and back and back, wherever I felt suddenly unrooted and scrambled around in my feelings, was always when there were too many people around. For me. So do you have any way, any practice you use to actually shield yourself from being an empath at certain situations where you do not want to feel the negative feelings, the sadness, or other things? How to shield yourself or protect yourself from it?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Oliver, to be very honest. Even I am trying to figure that out, because sometimes I feel overwhelmed, Like recently I was reading the book Anita Moorjani. She's an empath herself, and she was talking a lot about this. And here's the thing, right now I'm working with my clients too, To be very honest, I don't have a tool that I could shield myself with the energy, because sometimes I feel like I can, like there are tools I have learned, but then again, if I try to do that, then I feel like I'm not connecting with the person. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So sometimes, like, I could do that with the client, but then I feel like that I don't really connect with the person in order to support them. You know what I mean, Oliver? Yeah.
Yeah. So
currently, I'm not using anything to like shield myself. Like what I do is, whenever I absorb someone else's energy, I just go within myself and ground myself, and then release that energy out of my body, because sometimes I absorb so many people's energies, whenever I go to a funeral and whenever I go to a crowded place and all that, and then I realize that I need to release that once I come back home. Yeah.
Okay, I definitely see that you do not want to shield yourself from the energies from your clients or the people you try to help, because you somehow, I assume here, I don't know, that you use that sense to actually get deeper to the person, because some people might shield themselves or are not honest with what's going on, but you can sense something, and therefore you can probably guide through the waters to help more.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like by doing that, the other person just healing just by me being in that presence. If I try to, like, you know what I mean, Oliver? So, I mean, there are tools, for example, like that. There's one tool that I learned where I can put a rose in front of each other. I just like visualize
the aura.
Bubble, the aura, and then I put a rose right in front of you, and I just shield myself. But once, if I do that, then I feel like I'm going a little bit out of the presence, you know what I mean? And like where I am very deeply listening to a person, I feel like when I'm in that presence, the other person just get healed just by me being in that presence.
And that brings me back to the first author you mentioned. Eckhard Tolle says the same in his book.
Oh, yeah.
That he thought he's a healer because people were healing in his presence, where he then realized later on it was just his presence, and his presence, like his undivided presence on the person, which was healing them. It was not him doing anything. It was just because they were not used that someone is really there for them, present.
Exactly. That's why I do that, not like really shielding myself. I sometimes like I feel that I need to protect myself, but I just stay in that presence because I want to really support the person. So yeah.
Okay, that perfect. Oh wow. So now I have it from a person directly in front of me, not through a book. So you just shared I learned it from Jeffrey Allen, my sister shared me the same, with the aura, the bubble, and you have the acceptance rose or whatever, which says like this is my space, everything else is your space. You can get closer, but don't step over certain. And my sister had something similar. And now when you are filled up with all these energies because of a funeral, birthday party, shopping in a big market, how do you ground yourself? What is your process?
Okay, that's interesting. To be very honest, Oliver, I don't do anything particular, and like some years back, like some 2019 November, I went through a breakthrough awakening in my life, and after that awakening, something really interesting happened in my life. I just started being in the now, like in a meditative state throughout my life, like 24 hours.
Okay, so you're grounded all the time.
Like, yeah. It was like I was in that now, like this presence, like all the time. Sort of in the past, I used to get that through a meditation or something, which I did in particular. But after the awakening, that was like my state,
Okay.
Which I found interesting because that was not the case in the past. So, yeah.
Let's get shortly into that. I'm really curious. My second question normally is a color. Like if you would be a new pencil in a coloring box, what color would you be and why would you be that color? It could be anything. I mean, could be stardust if you want to.
Yeah. I think I would be the blue color.
Blue?
Yeah.
And why so?
Because most of my dresses are in blue.
Does it have any specific?
I love the color, especially the royal blue.
Royal blue, because you just love it.
I love it, yeah. I don't know why. It's just somehow my dresses are, almost all the dresses are in blue,
Beautiful. Okay, so, but then let's go into your story. I mean, where are you? You already mentioned awakening. You already mentioned that you're in the presence with other people. So where are you now and how did you get here?
Okay, where am I right now is just, now, what do you mean? Like,
what are you doing? Like, what is your...
Yeah. Okay, currently what I do is I coach people. I coach with them like spiritual and enlightenment. What I do basically is, Oliver, like that I facilitate people on their awakening, like not just as intellectual understanding. When I just explain something to them, then it becomes like a knowledge for them, like some another information. But what I do is I facilitate them to have a direct experience of this awakening for themselves, because only that can transform you. Only that can transcend your suffering. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yes. I mean, let's go a bit deeper.
Yeah.
I've seen on your Instagram profile, you have a few testimonials for your very short introduction you offer. So how can you facilitate someone to have an awakening? I mean, many people around the world realize something doesn't really fit in what they learned in school, parents, culturescape, and like me. And I know I do not feel that I'm spiritual. I'm too much in my head, right? So I know I'm still up here, like all the energy is up here.
I know, yeah.
And it's not... Many people have that. So how can you support someone actually to get, I don't know, where it is in the heart, in the being, and to waken up and really be present, I think?
Well, the number one thing I do is, Oliver, is just having discussions like this. Like most of the people, sometimes they say that after the session, they said, oh my goodness, I was in a heightened state. for 2-3 days after, So like, and what I do is I just have discussions with them, and then I try to open them up, to the reality that I experience. Because I feel like whenever I talk, sometimes some people who have done sort of meditations feel my energy too, and then they trust me in that way. So one of the things that I do is just I have discussions like this. And the second thing is I do with them is contemplation. Contemplation means like I ask them to do like, ask them to question themselves like one question over and over again. For example, one question I do with them is, who am I? And another question I do with them is, what do I really know for sure?
Yeah, I've seen that on your post as well.
Yeah.
I think today, actually.
I think I posted today. And so many other questions. What is fear? And all these questions, I just ask them to ponder on and contemplate on, because that's another way that I ground them. And another thing is I just ask them to like, actually, to be honest, Oliver, meditation is not about something you do for 30 minutes. It's a way of life. It should be a way of life, So what I ask them to do is anchor themselves through their body, because that's the best thing you can do, because you're always in your body. Whenever you are living in your body, you come out of your mind and start staying in your body. Whenever now you're seated, like if you feel your palms right now, do you feel your palms right now? You can do that anywhere,
Are you doing, I mean, I feel
Yeah.
you asked and I just felt all my 10 fingers.
Yeah.
Because I also take notes while we are talking.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
I was thinking also 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, in June, July, I went to a mastermind retreat. So the listeners, they know I'm talking about that, but we haven't talked before. And I did Vietnamese martial arts where we also had, breathing techniques, Qigong kind of things.
Oh.
I just got very much sweating and hot doing these breath works, I remember. But I do not remember to feel the ball. I remember the words of my teacher. He said, like, feel like you have a ball in your hand and you move it like this, that. And being in Bulgaria, I just felt this energy between the hands. Is that also something you work with when you practice grounding with your clients?
I don't do anything specifically like I'm doing with energy work or anything like that. What I do is sort of like the discussion itself is a vipassana meditation. I am opening up to them. I'm opening their head to a whole new world. And so yeah, that's what I basically do. Even I used to work with my teacher. Like I used to have a teacher, an enlightened Buddhist monk. Some years back, in 2018, I met him. And fortunately, I got the opportunity to work with him one-on-one. And the number one thing I asked was like what do I need to do to like awaken? Like, I mean, I realized that man is definitely awakened, like in a different, I felt his energy. So anyway, so I asked the number one question, how would I do this? And then he said, just have discussions like this and listen to me. That's all you need to. I'm like, okay, then what about the meditation? Because meditation is about the thing. And he said it's optional. I'm like, really? And so, yeah, he just shattered all my stuff and he took me to a whole new world, whole new path, because he has already walked the path. So he said, exactly do this, do that, do, and all that. And then I just in a whole new level of consciousness, I could say, Yeah.
So let's get into that now that you opened that door of the actual awakening from that you had.
Mhm.
Where have you been before, and how did you find this Buddhist monk teacher which was enlightened?
Yeah. Okay, for that I will go back to like 10 years back, you know.
So
Uh, in,
2010.
uh, yeah, I think I could say 2011,
Okay.
2011. Yeah, I went through like, anyway, I brought up, like I brought up in, I born to a family, it's a Buddhist family, so from the very, very young age, I got, because my parents are a little bit too religious, they were into this work anyway. And so I also got influenced by that, all these Buddhist concepts such as enlightenment and things like that from very young age. But I could say the major shift happened in me was like in 2011. Like I went through a breakup with my boyfriend at that time, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just 2 years relationship, just like, you know. But the thing with me is I get attached with someone very, very, because I'm very sensitive and I get very attached with the person. And suddenly when I broke up with him, like I lost all the meaning that I had about life, because he was my meaning at the time. I felt like he was my purpose because for 2 years that went on. And suddenly, wow, like, I was like, now what? And at that time, I had like a mini awakening where I felt like the whole thing is a joke. I told some stuff to this man, like, okay, I'm going to be with you forever, this and that. Like, I promised him all this stuff. And right now, I mean, does this mean that I'm going to tell this old shit to another man? I felt like I had a mini awakening, like, the whole thing is a joke. I don't know. And I lost all the meaning, and now I'm like, now what? I'm like, what's the meaning of life? What we are doing anything in life, and why I'm here? What's going on? I wanted to figure out every day. I was asking really deep questions, and I couldn't find any answers especially from the religion, And I saw that there are like, that there are scriptures and all that, but then I'm like, I wasn't so happy with that because I wanted to find something for myself as the direct experience, not as some like borrowed knowledge, And so I came into this spirituality very, very deeply, I started like listening to so many enlightened teachers around the world. Like you name it, I know anyone in the world that I know every person. Okay. I started listening to every teacher that I could possibly find, And so during this time also I got into the university, like I got that admission to go to the university because I got really good grades and I entered into the university, but I wasn't feeling so good. I was feeling empty and unhappy, miserable, sad, complaining all the time. I mean, that's the honest reality of my life at that time, And so somehow I was like following management degree, which is to do with entrepreneurship.
Oh,
I was
okay.
majoring in entrepreneurship because I knew from the very beginning I'm not going to do a job, I can't do it. And, so I just majored in entrepreneurship. So at that time, I also like somehow it's a long story, but is it okay if I go on the story?
Yes, that's why I do not have the fixed time because I want my guests to be able to really open up and share.
Yeah, okay. And so during this time, I was doing my university degree. But at the same time, my whole focus is about finding answers, finding answers, why I'm here and all that. I wasn't really in my degree. Sometimes I have next day, I have an exam, but I'm just reading enlightened teachers. It's so funny. I'm so glad at least I passed the exams, but somehow, and I got the degree. And also at that same time, I was doing a professional accounting course as well. If you have heard of Chartered Institute of Management Account, it's a UK qualification. I was following that too, And at the same time, degree this. And also I was doing some classes, teaching English to like small kids and students, and was trying to like really balance all this stuff. But my mind was always in the spirituality, was trying to find meaning. And I found many teachers, many enlightened teachers. And but the thing is, I didn't feel like I got real answers for what I'm looking for. Yes, during this time, I had many awakenings too, because I was very much into this work, was meditating every day. And was doing inner work, listening to hours of teachers. Whenever I get a break, what I do is I put everything out, listening to Eckhard Tolle. Sometimes there were times, Oliver, before I go to the university, I have to listen to 30 minutes at least to Eckhard Tolle. Otherwise, I can't go because I wanted to ground myself. You know what I mean?
But you, as you said in the beginning, so you absorbed his energy again. Did you do that already there, that you felt him, or was it just the words which grounded you?
It's just I feel his energy. I'm like
already then.
Already then I felt it. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I've been guided through this energy system. I don't know. That's how I operate. I don't know. But right now, you can see a laptop right in front of you. For me, energies are like that, very tangible. I just
wow.
Yeah. One time I can mention you I was in a hotel and I came to the reception and we were about to get into our vehicle, but that time some 3 people came into the vehicle, from a tri-show. There's in Sri Lanka there are something called tri-shows, like a 3-wheeler, and they just got down. Suddenly they just got down, and then I immediately felt they're up to something. I felt such a restless energy. I'm like, everyone, just come in, and I don't know what really happened because the vehicle came and we just got inside and we came out. But I just felt there's something really up with the energy of those people. And there are many instances like that I feel people's energies.
So you were at the 30-minute listening to Eckhart Tolle, so you actually could get to, that was before university.
During this time, I was always listening to Eckhart Tolle.
So he's like one of your big guides, actually, or mentors.
I could say, yeah. He's one of the, because I feel like he just grounds me. I don't need to do even any meditation, just listen to him, I'm grounded.
Which is funny because I got really irritated listening to him in the beginning. But that, I think my friend sent me Eckhart Tolle in German because he's German and I'm Swiss German, so I do understand. I just realized a lot of this mindfulness, meditation, enlightenment material in German is harder for me to absorb. It somehow doesn't really get in me, where in English it's easier. I just finished a translation for a friend for some meditation, and I felt it was really hard for me to find the right word in German to describe what was so easily flowing in English.
I know. I know that because I also try to learn German, and it's a very difficult language to learn, to be honest.
It's more constructive, right? It's kind of like an engineering language. I mean, that's what I heard not too long ago. And Yeah, now I lost a little bit the track where I wanted to go because of, but I know Eckhart Tolle.
Talking
Yeah,
about it.
Eckhart. Yeah,
You got
he
me.
talks. He talks about these things, right? If you're not ready for it, you will not listen or read him because you're not ready. When you're ready for it, you will understand his messages, and it's true, I think.
I know. Yeah. I think like some people like even really ask that what kind of a book is this from him, you know, what sort of a book is this? There's nothing in there. And some people even like blasted him saying that what's in there? Like what sort of craziness is there? But you know, yeah. You know, like I don't know, for me, I just feel him. I just feel his genuine thing, you know. That's how most of the time I figure out people. I just feel like it's genuine.
Okay, but let's then go. So you got your degree. You continued more degrees. You gave classes to pupils in English, and you
I
were
was
searching for
passionate.
enlightenment.
Yeah. And at the
And at the same time,
most of my, if I could say, I would have given 10% of to all that work, but 90% always with this work, with the spiritual work. My mind was always in this work.
but you were still down in. You had many awakenings, but you still were not really good mentally.
I sort of one time I still remember I was meditating, and suddenly like I just out of the meditation I started crying. Okay, and then out of nothing for like very long time I cried, and then I'm like, why I'm crying? Nothing happened, and then I'm like, just because of the suffering of other people. It's
Oh,
weird.
wow.
And that I found that really weird because I've never cried for other people's suffering before. But this is, I really ask myself, why I'm crying? Why? Just other people are suffering. So much suffering is out there. Just pure that, you know. And I found it really weird because that's never happened in my life. Because, yeah. But
And when was that?
it's like some years back, maybe 2000. Like 14 or
Okay.
2013 in that time.
Yes. So that's of course.
The awakening where, you know, like it's like for a moment I felt other people suffering, you know, like just became like one with other people, sort of. And I felt like enormous suffering is there. Oh, I was crying for like nearly 15 minutes. I was crying. It's really
Wow.
crazy.
So after that, you had another understanding of yourself or from the world.
Well, I could say I was lost. I wasn't very, very, like I got answers for anything or anything like that. Just at that time, I cried, and then that's it. You know. To be very honest, I was very lost. You know, sometimes there were times I'm like, is there anything called enlightenment? You know, and I mean, how do I know whether what if this is not even real? Because I am putting all my life on hold and I'm just going after this. And what if it's not even real? I mean, no one can guarantee that. Other people say they are awake, and other people, I mean, how do we know? You know? You know what I mean? So
I'm there. I'm exactly at that point.
how do we know? How do you know even what I have gone through any awakening? You know what I mean? That's the truth. So I was like that, you know, it's like, I don't know whether there's something called like enlightenment. And so, yeah, and also I was following another one, like I was following many, many teachers. One time, just like you said, you got irritated with Eckhart Tolle. My teacher was like, someone really influenced me in my life is Osho.
Osho, yeah.
You've heard of him.
Yeah.
And I have read only his books, like 40 plus books, just on Osho.
40 plus books?
On Osho. I'm like a big fan. I am like I could say even he's my dad. It's like that big influence on me, you know. And yeah.
Wow. So you got the guidance through books and these teachers.
Yeah, to be very honest, I feel like I can't rely on other people for the information. I feel like these enlightened people are the most trustworthy source of information that I could find. You know, for some odd reason, I don't know. That's how I felt at the time. So I feel like this is the most trustworthy place that I could listen. So I just immersed myself in this. Whoever if I felt, but to be honest, in the beginning, Osho, I doubted him. I got so annoyed with him, just like you said. I felt like, oh my goodness, this is such an arrogant man. How does he think that he's the, like, that's how I look at him. I still remember, okay? And I got so irritated just by listening to him, looking at his arrogance. And one time, I just went to my coach. At that time, I had a coach who is an NLP practitioner. And I went to her, and then I just shared my stories, and all that stuff happened. And then after that, one time I just talked to her and said, do you know Osho? And then she said, yes. And then I said, oh, he's such an arrogant man, right? Like such a big ego, I said to her. Okay. And then she looked at me and said, he's an enlightened person. And then she said another thing which irritated me more. You are projecting your arrogance onto him. And then I'm like, I got really annoyed with the answer she gave, because that's not what I expected. I wanted her to just join with me and just like tell, yeah, he's really arrogant, but that's not what I expected, you know. And then I'm like, but I didn't trust Osho at the time, but I trusted my NLP practitioner, my coach, you know. So I was like, okay, really interesting. Why did she say she's enlightened? Because at that time, I had no idea how to figure out people who are enlightened. How would you ever figure that out, you know? And then since I trusted her, I started listening to, reading him more and more, and then I got more irritated. But then I realized at one point, after reading years of Osho, he was pure emptiness. I was projecting my own arrogance to him. That was completely my arrogance. That was completely my ego I was projecting onto him and seeing that. And that completely blew my mind. But that was years after that I had that realization. But yeah, I just said that because you mentioned that how you got irritated. You know?
No, that's beautiful. I mean, so I have to talk less and have my guests speak more. But it's so true. I remember a friend of mine he found whatever book on a bookshelf when he was traveling and had nothing to read, because back then his ex-wife had the mother there, and he was just feeling like sitting there and not having to do anything while they're chatting. And he was listening to some podcasts. I do not remember. Sorry, guys, I do not remember the name. And he was talking exactly about what you say. But that guy was testing all kind of drugs, right? He tried all kind of drugs to get to enlightenment.
I was
like
DMT, stuff like
everything. And he just said, if you cannot let go of your ego, you will feel you're dying and all these things. And in one of the talks, I listened to 5 or 6 episodes before I got like, okay, what he says resonates, but I don't really enjoy listening to him because it's not my path. He went another path than I wanted. But he also said exactly that. He said, like, if he also had like his teachers and said exactly the same. He was like, how can you be a whatever teacher and you have, and you just have all these different girls? It was just him projecting his fears and whatever onto that person. That person was not married and was just enjoying life. Yes, he was teaching spirituality, but that doesn't mean that you sit in an empty room and sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
but so that's very interesting. So you bring up a lot of these small steps, and you did a lot of work. I can see.
Oh yes,
You did a lot of work to get there, where you say, okay, I actually project my ego, my arrogance on that person. What did that do to you when you had that aha moment?
I couldn't believe it. I was like, I don't know. I was speechless at that time when I realized the NLP practitioner was exactly to the point. But it took some time, maybe 2 years. But I kept on reading Osho. But then I realized she was to the point, 100% right. And I became more and more humble after that. So yeah, I realized I was arrogant. It's not him. It's me.
Okay. Where is this?
Suffering because of my arrogance. That's the truth.
So you were suffering because of your arrogance.
Yeah, I was arrogant. That's what I was projecting onto him,
How did the people react around you when you had that aha and this shit, I'm arrogant? How did the people, like your family, your friends, how did they react on you? How did your life change? Was it getting lighter or was it getting harder?
I could say both. I was feeling lighter and lighter and lighter, but then people around me didn't really like it. The path that I was going forward. There were times that I still remember one person coming to me and said, I'm wasting my youth to putting my whole life into this work like this, I was like, this is the best decision I've ever made. And I was very, very bad. To be honest, I was like, I also had doubts in the path because I didn't know what I was doing. And, but I just felt right. I felt right.
Yeah. And when did you find your Buddhistic monk? When did he come into play? Or she? I guess it's a man.
It's a man. Yeah, it's a man. It's like this. Like in 2018, like my brother and mother was listening to a monk and a Buddhist monk in the TV. They were like putting into the TV. I was watching that. And they asked me to come and sit, and like watch this person. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't have time because I am like, I was like I was very confident with what I was listening already. I'm like around the world, I know anyone who is in line. And also like he was from Sri Lanka. So, I mean, I used to listen to like monks in the past, but that really, like, I feel like it's a little bit complicated. So I didn't really want to listen. But somehow I heard one word from this Buddhist monk, which really resonated with me. And I said, oh yeah, I'm fine. But then I heard one word which really hit me, which is like the universal truth. He said he's talking the universal truth. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I came to my room and then I started listening to him by myself in the room. I do everything in my room. And I was like, and so I came to the room and I started listening to this man. I'm like, okay, this man knows something. This man has the answers that I'm looking for. Finally, I met the guy. I was listening hours and hours. There were like 50 episodes. Okay. And it's hours, like 2 hours long, I think, one episode. And when my parents were like, my brother and mother was like at episode like 5, I have finished the whole episodes 50. And because I realized, okay, interesting. This man knows something. And he's from Sri Lanka too. I am from Sri Lanka. So I'm like, okay, I mean, I can relate to this person because even if I see this man, it's enough for me. Because I realize he's a living Buddha. You know, what I want to tell you is, Oliver, there are living Buddhas and Jesus around us. But the thing is, do we have the eyes to recognize them? Very interesting.
Uh-huh. Living
They
Jesus and
don't
Buddhas.
wait until that Buddhas and Jesus are coming. There are already living Buddhas and Jesus walking around. Find those people. Do you have eyes to recognize them? That's the question you need to ask yourself. And I realized this man is a living Buddha. And then I wanted to connect with somehow. I just wanted to see him. Just wanted to see him. That's all. I didn't want to do anything. Just wanted to see him. You know. So I felt like I felt so good listening to him. And then one time I went on a trip with some friends, and in the near the pool there are these chairs, and I just sit down on the chair, and then I started writing an email to this teacher. And I wrote everything that I did so far, you know, every teacher I listened to so far. And I put all my work into the email, and I just typed the email and I sent it to him. I don't know what will happen, but anyway, I sent it. And after that, I thought like, okay, I found the number of the teacher, and I thought, okay, I'm going to call him. And then, that's a nice background.
Now that's better, huh?
And then I called the monk. You know, I didn't know what will happen, but anyway, I just called him anyway. What there to lose anyway, right? So I called him. He would say, I don't want to talk with you, or he would talk to me, right? So I called him anyway. And luckily, he talked to me. When I called him, he talked to me. I'm so happy. He's like a public figure in Sri Lanka. And I'm like, okay, this is good. And then, and I told him like, oh yeah, like I want to see you, and I'm seeing you is just like a living Buddha. I'm seeing like a living Buddha and all that. And then just shared my stuff and all that. We had a little bit of conversation, and then I found that he's coming to Colombo for a particular place, and I just went with my mother to see him. You know, I knew that he will be coming. And I was sitting down, so happy, just waiting until the monk appear, and then my mother and me, and then just went so early. And it's like, okay, he's supposed to come at 6. Now it's the time, or it's like 6 now. I'm just so like eagerly waiting, but he's not appearing. And 6:30, no, he's not there. 7, he's not there. And then by 7:10 or somewhere like that, there's a monk came in, but then that's the student, like a student. Then monk, I'm like, I was so disappointed. But we didn't have any choice. We went all the way, because I'm not living in Colombo, so I'm sort of living in a village, like not exactly in Colombo. So, and then, okay, we came back. I was very disappointed because I couldn't see him. Somehow, again, I tried my luck. This time I went with one of my friends and sat down. And then this time I knew that he will be coming. And just like that, he came. I was so happy to see him. I just worshipped his feet. And then like he just recognized me, like, you know, and then because I have already sent him the email. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask a question from him, you know. And but somehow he gave me the mic because there was like a huge hall with so much of people. And I was seated and I was given the mic and I asked the question. And that's how the whole thing started with this teacher. And after that, I got like, yeah. And I asked the question and he replied. And that was very, very enlightening, that the answers he gave me. And then somehow I got the opportunity to work with him like this, one-on-one, having discussions with him for another one, sort of like 1 year, or 1 year, I could say. I was working with him one-on-one like this, but I don't get to talk to him very often. Sometimes he's very busy. But somehow whenever I have some time, I was like asking my questions and everything. And, I felt like, wow, it's so easy with him, everything that I was trying to figure out by myself. Now he's like, he can give it just like that because he has already walked the path. He just tells me exactly what I need to do. So I felt so easy. And he made it everything so easy. I think that's what happens with the teacher, and it's amazing. And I did everything that I could possibly do, whatever he said I did. And after that, in 2019, November, I went through a breakthrough awakening, which was nothing like the awakenings that I ever experienced in my entire life. That was a complete shift, which I could not go back to the self that I was in the past. It was completely like I don't know, I just get speechless whenever I try to tell about that awakening. It was like a permanent shift in consciousness. Even though I would like to go back to the self, I couldn't know way that I could go back to that Dilmi self before. I realized that maybe that's why so many people who like gone through awakenings, they change their names, because with that name, they have the memories and everything attached to that, and yeah.
So did you change the name as well, or not?
No, I didn't really change my name. It's just Dilmi from the very beginning. So, but I have seen many people who have done that, and then I
actually also
do it because I never could go back to my Dilmi self before. So yeah.
So what has changed? I mean, what was this awakening, this consciousness, this understanding you have that you do not want to go back to the life before? I mean, now you just shared to us that for 8 years, up to that point, almost 9 years, you were just absorbing a lot of spiritual teachings and awakening teachings, and there. So does it mean like you realize you do not have to search so much anymore, so you can spend your time differently, or
you
what
mean
is
after the awakening?
Yeah, after the breakthrough awakening.
Yeah, to the breakthrough awakening, what really happened was my seeking stopped. That's the only difference. That's it. Nothing. My life is just completely just like normal, just like before. And but I was I started experience life in a different way. I felt like everything has stopped in my life, It's like suddenly everything is like stopped, I started seeing colors, different colors that I've never seen before. I started feeling like the taste of the food, which I've never experienced before, and it was very, very different, and nothing really major different happened, just that I started seeing the reality as it is, Yeah.
So the question is, how is reality?
The reality, that's a good beginning. That's a good question you ask. Okay. Here's the thing, Oliver, during that awakening, I will explain to you what really happened, I was in the room at 1:30 a.m. in the morning. I was in a very, very, I could say, deep and now, like a nowness. I don't know whether there's a word exists like nowness. I don't know, but I felt like I was in a very, very deep now. I was just watching a video and nothing special. Suddenly this happened to me. you know, at the time of the awakening, what I felt was, I felt like I just woke up from a very, very, very long sleep.
Wow.
Very long sleep. I felt like I was living upside down for 28 bloody years.
Oh. I don't know the questions now.
You don't need to know everything.
No, we don't need to know everything. It's just like, I'm like, wow, but how can, I mean, that's again going back to Eckhart Tolle, because, he has been guiding us through some of the questions here, especially your life. He always says you cannot mentally understand something, you have to experience it.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing now with other people, Yeah. Because
So
I had all the information. I had all the knowledge in the world, Oliver. I mean, to be honest, I have read, I said like just by Osho, just 40 plus books. I read hundreds of spiritual books. If you want the knowledge, yeah, but nothing, just my suffering was always there. The information can't like transcend your suffering. That's the problem. I really wished back then. I really wished.
Yeah, but as you said, you're just the mirror. I mean, you're just saying to me what I heard so many times. You have all the knowledge. When are you getting in your body? That's where I am. I'm just at the door going through, because the knowledge is there. And I have not done as much work as you, but I know I have a lot of knowledge. So
the knowledge is the ultimate barrier to this path. Trust me. I had to unlearn everything that I learned. Like, to be honest, everything in the degree, everything, you name it. Oh my goodness. Talk about that.
Yeah, I can see it's a very emotional memory for you still.
I was crying. I felt like I was dying. I literally.
Wow. So you felt dying, but you were reborn.
Exactly. I felt like literally dying. I was scared to death. I was so scared. It was so scary. It was so scary. I was crying like a baby. I'm being honest. That's what happened till I right there.
For the ones which have not had such a feeling, which are most of the people on this planet, how can you get scared to die in that situation? Did you get like a heart race? Did you get sweating? Did you get unconscious? What was it that made you feel you're dying? I mean, it's the death of the ego, I guess, to some degree.
It is.
That's what some people search through drugs, right? And that's, with or breath work or meditation on the Himalayas in underpants. I have no idea. But what is the feeling that makes you feel like now you're dying? Now you everything is just collapsing and destroyed.
Yeah, it's like suddenly everything disappeared. Everything just disappeared. It's so scary. I realized there's no one outside of myself. I'm creating the whole world by my mind. There was never anything outside of myself. I was experiencing my own thoughts the whole time. The whole time.
Yeah. I intellectually have heard that many times, not experienced, but you say exactly what I've learned so many times.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey is talking about that, if you know.
Oh,
He
yeah.
says our eyes are the projection of our thoughts, so we experience our thoughts as reality, or something in that
Okay,
direction.
I mean, I will try to give you like a 3D experience of like this. I will try, I will try. No, it's not.
If I fall off and you don't hear of me, then
Oh, well, don't worry, nothing will happen. It's just not like that. It just try to give you like a glimpse to what I'm trying to say. Like, okay, can you just explain a dream you had like at night?
me, like you
Oh,
asked me,
yes, you.
you on the other side, which is listening to this podcast, please send a message to Dimly or me. But please do that. I mean, if you listen after we record it, now is whenever you listen. For me, that has been for around 1.5, 2 years. I can see I have made notes about sleeps, which are from 2019. And I did actually a Mind Valley lucid dreaming quest because I want to experience my dreams better. But my dreams feel like thoughts. So I don't have many dreams where I have somewhat the feeling I'm inside. So I never have the feeling like what's happening here. I never have a dream where I'm looking at my hand like, hey, this feels like reality. So for me, that's very difficult. For me, the dreams are always kind of like made up in the thought. It's like reading a book. No, like when you read a book and you read it, and then you have like the thoughts and you start to imagine, let's say it's a fantasy book, and you start to build up the story. That's how my dreams are. And they're very chaotic. That's why I know it feels like thoughts, because things are just jumping. So I'm in a room with a friend, for example, and then next things I remember, I'm on the way outside between houses with the friend going to a party. Next thing, I'm in the party. It's getting crazy and everything, and I want to go home, but I wait until everyone left, and then I go home, and then I'm home. But everything in between is not existing. It's just like boom, 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 or the house suddenly has no roof, and there's a lot of people in it, and nothing makes sense. But that's how it is for me.
It's perfectly fine. So that's a dream you had, right? Which you just...
Yeah, one I can remember now.
Perfect. So I want to ask you the question, like at the time of that sleep, like you had this dream when you were sleeping, right? At night. So at that particular moment, like who created that dream?
I would say my thoughts, my mind, something.
Your mind, right? Yeah, exactly. Your mind. And during that time, like, for example, when you're seated with your friend, how did you feel?
The feelings are even less in those dreams for me. It's very seldom, but I feel confused most of the time.
Okay, you felt.
Or I feel hurt or misunderstood.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's say you felt hurt, right? So I want to ask you the question, Oliver, if there was a dream, why did you feel hurt? I'm just curious.
Because of a memory, because of it's connected with something I experienced before in real life or in the 3D world.
It's like, because at that particular moment, you didn't know that wasn't real. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if
but
you knew that at that moment, if it was not real, you wouldn't have any emotions, right? Like you would be just, oh, it's just a dream. Like in the morning, you're like, oh, that's just a dream. But for you, okay, at that particular moment, you felt it real, okay? At that particular moment, you felt real until you wake up in the morning. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. But then
what I would tell you is like, okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because there's a lot of questions, and I do not know if we lost a few of our listeners. And the question is, of course, if if everything we see is a projection from our mind, and it just, like Jacob is just passing me now, luckily I think, but how do I interact with you? Is that just a projection of my mind? I just said, like, I would like to have someone from Sri Lanka talking about her awakening. How does this interaction work? Or are we just a lot of minds interacting somehow and interfering with what we experience? But then how does that work? Don't laugh.
I'm not laughing. I had so many things which, when my teacher said, this is the whole thing is a dream, I'm like, that's the question I asked when I first, like in that satsang, when I got the mic, like, that's the question I asked. Because I was like, how do you say it, I was so confused with what he said.
Is this a dream?
Yeah.
That was your question.
What if, what if the Dilmi you're talking to is also a projection of your own mind? What if you're seeing your own thoughts? There's no Dilmi outside of yourself. What if? What if?
That would explain experiences from friends. When you change yourself, the way you look at the world or feel, the people around you change. Because then the projection changes from the people you...
Yeah.
But then I'm really powerful. Then everyone which is listening to this is really powerful. Or in the end, I'm just doing a podcast and it's only me listening to it.
Here's the thing, what I realized in the awakening is, why I got terrified is I went into a very, very, very deep loneliness because I can't explain that in words because I was so afraid to losing people around me. I told you, like, everything just disappeared suddenly. And I was like, at that particular moment, if there was any grass, I would hold on to that. It was just like that. It was so scary it's so scary to know that there's no one outside of yourself. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, you've never experienced any outside of your world. It's just you experiencing your own thoughts moment to moment. It's just like, I could take it as an example. Imagine you're just staying in a very, very dark room by yourself, and you are imagining this whole thing on your mind. That's what's exactly happening. What if this is, you don't need to really believe me because this is too far. That's scary. I know. That's why I told you I was so scared. That's scary. What if, what if? And then at that particular moment, for the first time, I understood what Hinduism, in that religion, it says life is a Maya, which is to say life is an illusion. For the first time, I got what that was saying. And then I realized why the Buddha was talking life is nothingness. The world is this nothing, this empty. I realized that man was not the Buddha was not some like a negative teacher or anything like that. It's just he was talking the reality. You know what I mean?
Do you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you.
Because I was told the internet is unstable, but
okay.
What you say, I all know that, but I don't experience it. Or no, I don't know all of that, but I've heard it in one or the other way, and it makes sense. Yet living living that truth is very difficult. And it also goes, I don't know, now you have listened to a lot of these healers. So there's also Joe Dispenza, but he's not like a spiritual healer in that perspective. He's more like a physical healer.
Yeah, I know Joe Dispenza, yeah.
How can you not?
Yeah.
So then there's also Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden in that trilogy. And that makes sense. So when you really realize there's nothingness, everything there is your thoughts which are projected. So your body can be whatever, right? So you can heal your body. And I do not know when I saw it, but probably a year ago. In the news, there was one Indian guy which said he didn't eat or drink water for 10 years. So he was just living from being. And he actually went to the hospital, and they had him for 7 days, and they didn't give him food or water. He didn't go to the bathroom. But I haven't heard from that. So if this is all there is, it's our projection, we should be able to do all these things.
For me,
I mean, just
I can do this.
No, but that's just what when I listen to you, and all these things are here, then that should all be possible. We could basically change. I could basically say, you know what, I do not want to talk to you through Zoom. I want to sit next to you and have this talk in face to face. So if, theoretically that should be possible, because everything is made up.
Oh, that's interesting. And to be very honest, I can't do any of those stuff. I can't really make like wine out of water, and I can't walk on the water. Don't expect. I can't do any of those stuff. I can't live with being bullshit. And, and to be honest, like that's the problem. That's why people don't see the living Buddhas. You know.
Because you want to see the people.
Right, because that's what they're looking for. But they never find that people. There's so many people trying to say, you know, tell this truth, but they just don't see them, you know. That's how they get distracted. They think, oh, the person could be, what miracles? But there's no miracle. Miracle itself is realizing who you are, realizing this truth. That's it. There's no other miracle. I don't have any superpowers. That's the truth.
No, but we are. I mean, life kind of is superpower.
Yeah, I think so. I think like that I support other people and they feel their energy, and I could support them, that itself, and then I could support them when sometimes they could realize this truth. That itself is a miracle for me. You know. That's a miracle, you know. If someone just get these teachings and then they realize that truth for themselves, that's a real miracle, you know, because that is the only thing that can transform your life, you know.
Yeah. So now we got a taste as good as you can give it to how it. What happens when you basically realize who you really are. And then after that was end 19, and then shortly after that we had the Corona lockdown. So it was only like 2-3 months after that. So did you said you go back to life as usual, but did you start teaching people after that, you know, core awakening? Or
yeah, to be honest, for 1 year's time, I didn't tell this to anyone. Like I told this to my teacher, and he already like confirmed. Like we had a discussion with my teacher, and also I had a discussion with another teacher, and I told like few people around me, but I didn't really tell this to anyone, and I didn't even do anything. To be honest, I didn't even earn money, but I was showing other people as if I was being productive. You know, I wasn't doing anything. To be honest, I was just doing nothing, completely just living, eating, and sleeping, just like other people. But the Dilmi inside has changed. You know, it's just not that Dilmi before, and and after 1 year's time, I felt like how do we know, like our lives are fragile, right? One of the motivation that I had in when I was doing this work, Oliver, was like, our lives are so fragile. We don't know whether we will be tomorrow, you know. That's how fragile our lives are. And we could die right just like that. We don't know whether we'll wake up in the morning. We could have an accident just like that. So that's another motivation, like a drive I had to realize this truth such a young age, because I realized, oh my goodness, I'm not going to wait until 60s to figure this out. That's something I would never do. And so, what we were like.
It was more like what you did after. I mean, I had seen on the Instagram that you had this testimonial, so I was not sure if you build up a coaching or something.
Oh yeah, what really happened was like I wasn't open to tell this to anyone because I didn't want to again get crucified like what happened to Jesus, and then so I just wrote a book, but I didn't publish it. I wrote a book and I didn't publish it, but I did something. One time I went on Mind Valley. There's a course called Integral Life, and the Kindle is talking wake up experience there, and it's interesting. So what I did was I just shared my experience there. I realized, wow, like there are people who are open to this. Why not put that out there? And then I put it there. And for my surprise, people got really inspired and wanted to know my story. I found that, wow, I didn't expect that. So, and after that, I just published my book on Kindle called Life is a Dream. And it's very easy to read, and I have put my story in there, more in a very, very a very easy way, easy to read. Any kid can understand that. So, and after that, I I thought there was one coach who just said all the time, you have so much value to give, why don't you coach? And then only I started coaching people. And I started seeing really, really people are getting healed. People come to my calls and start crying, and just telling stuff which I don't even, they expect them to share, which is incredible. And I saw how much they are getting healed. And then I realized, wow, just transform people's lives, So, and what I always ask is sometimes people ask me what if your awakening is just some another nonsense, another just some dream, some clients have that, and then I'm like, oh, that's interesting. How do you know? How do you know? That's a really good question. And what I would suggest is don't worry about whether I have awakened or not, because that really doesn't support you. Whether I am awakened or not, it doesn't give you anything. But if it really reduces your suffering, if it's your suffering going down and down by doing my work, I think that makes sense, So what I suggest is don't worry about whether my awakening or anything, just if you suffering, because that's why we are in the spirituality, right? That's why I came onto this work, because I realized human condition is we are suffering, we are in a burning house because we believe that there's a self called Dilmi or Oliver, but in reality, there's no self. But once you create a whole world around this self, this is my, if you take my life, my father, my mother, my house, my business and everything, whenever something, my stuff, going down or have something happening to them, my stuff, we're burning inside ourselves. That's what happens, And so, yeah, and then I started doing that coaching, for now, I continue to coaching people and facilitate their awakening. And so, yeah, that's how I got into coaching.
So that's, I guess, Integral was available from October last year?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's probably where we met.
I think
might have seen you.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the quest, from the comments, probably I've seen something. Wow. I mean, that's deep. So I don't think people can absorb much more at the moment,
Yeah.
but I definitely will have more questions for you
Mhm.
to close the whole thing down.
And also,
What kind of
aspects
advice
which I
would you?
didn't even share about my awakening yet. There are other aspects which was like I didn't really, we didn't have time, so yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely do that a second time and
Oh
say,
yeah,
hey,
sure.
the missing aspects of the
Yeah.
awakening, something like that. It sounds cool for a title. But what kind of advice would you give the listeners after listening to where you come from, that you love blue dresses and all your awakening and the depth of it? What is the advice you would give them for this episode?
I would suggest them to find out who they are, discover who they are for themselves, so they can liberate themselves. If you do this one thing, I would guarantee you will die as a blissful person. I will guarantee you that.
I have the feeling that's true. I had a similar thought the last 2 days.
Okay.
When you get at peace with that doesn't matter. Any call to action, how to do that? Ask yourself the 2 questions you had in the beginning, or
In the beginning, you can listen to many teachers, I don't know, that could even confuse people maybe. What I would suggest is contemplate on the question, who am I?
And what do I really know for sure? Was that?
Yeah, that's another one that you can do. But if I can give you one question, very, very important, who am I? Because what I got with the answer in the awakening was a direct experience of the question, who am I? Not as intellectual understanding, but as a direct experience of the question, who am I? So if you do this thing, I think it will completely transform your life. I guarantee that.
Wow, it's deep. I mean,
It is.
Because listening to you,
work,
it feels like, yeah, she's talking nice and everything, but I know there's a lot of deep knowledge there and a lot of deep thing. But you have to experience for yourself to really understand the depth of what you said here.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I hope I was able with this interview with you to get more people interested or opening their eyes and saying, okay, I actually haven't asked myself those questions, or so far I got irritated when other people talk about that and thought they're just crazy. So I love that. And where can people reach out to you? I know you're on Instagram, but do you have other platforms you want them to reach to you?
Other platforms, I don't really use much social media, but only thing that I use is Instagram, which is my username is Dilmi 7 LAK. It's 7 in digit, okay?
Yeah.
7 in digit LAK.
How comes you had to find an extra adding to Dilmi, or does it have a meaning?
This phrase, do you ask, is there any?
Dilmi 7 ALK, does it have a special meaning?
Oh, not really, no.
Okay, it's just because you could not use Dilmi.
Yeah, I just out of nothing,
I don't know. Who knows? In a few years, suddenly there comes a meaning to it. Super, but then, yeah, I don't ask you about books. We have talked about Osho. If you want to read Osho, you have a lot to read about him. Eckhart Tolle. The monk you were talking about, is there something for people to listen to him?
Oh, yeah, if they want to, yeah, sure.
What's his name?
Bintitagaleanandasirihimi.
Okay, you have to write that down, so I will put that in the show notes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. I'll send it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one more of these heavy Indian names, which I mean,
Oh, it's not Indian, yeah. Oh, yeah.
or Sri Lanka. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
Pretty much, yeah. Go together.
super. But then I think we can stop the recording here, and I thank the listeners for their attention, and see you another time. And thank you, Dilmi, for being here on the show. That was really inspiring.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Oliver. Thanks again.